I asked yours, like, what were the big stories that have kind of been going on that you guys have been following? Because that's kind of your job, right? Is to pay attention to the news and pay attention to what's going on. What has been the story for each of you that has been the biggest thing that you've been following lately?
Yeah, so it's a bit, in the last week it's been two. I think the release of, Tried in a Small Town has been a really big dominating theme, and I think it's been great to see it, go so high up the charts because, I listened to the song and I was confused because all these white liberals were telling me it was racist, and I was like, wait, he didn't mention black people, so like, why are you instinctively thinking about black people when you listen to a song about criminals? And I think that says a lot more about them than it does Jason Aldean, and so I think to see cancel culture kind of have the opposite effect as we've seen it just blow up has been incredible. I've also been at war with a rapper named Xaviaer. If you guys don't know who that is, your life is better because of it. But she is known for the hit song Pound Town, and it sounds exactly like it does. It is exactly how it sounds, and she raps in that song about how her quote, this is a quote, not me, she says her coochie is pink and her booty hole is brown, and how she needs to go to Miami so she can find the sugar daddies. And then she goes on to say that her son needs a new pappy. Again, her words, not mine. And so, I tweeted at her and I said, why are you always, rapping about your vagina? Have you ever tried to say anything impactful? And, she clapped back, and then, one of her stans said, CJ, what have you ever done for the black community? And so I responded because, a few summers ago when, Black Lives Matter was burning down, all of America, they also inadvertently burnt down lots of black owned businesses, especially in the city of Atlanta. And so I was, I think, 18 years old at the time. And so I started a GoFundMe basically with the opposite intention. I wanted to help reopen the black owned businesses that these terrorists had, burnt down. And all of the racist conservatives in America donated to that GoFundMe, and we raised $170,000 to open those black owned businesses. And so I replied with that. That's what I've done for the black community. And they were like, oh, well, you kind of ate with that, but, we'll leave that alone. So it's been good. I'm waging a war on Pound Town. I'm going to bring God to Pound Town. I am bringing the Bible to Pound Town, and I'm uniquely qualified. I was just at the Holy Land. I was in Jerusalem a few weeks ago. By the time I am done with Pound Town, it will be the New Jerusalem.
Okay. So are we going to put an embassy in Pound Town?
There may need to be.
We're not turning Pound Town into glass. We're not going to Sodom and Gomorrah Pound Town.
I think
it can be reformed.
I think it can be reformed. I think Sexy Red will be excommunicated. She will not be. It will no longer even be named Pound Town. It will be. We're going to rebrand.
What do we call it? What do we call it then?
Redemption Town.
Okay.
The Sanctuary of Pound.
There you go.
What of Pound?
The Sanctuary of Pound.
This show is off to a great start.
who needs anything to be on the rails? It's off the rails. Off the rails is fine. That's fine. Is this the type of thing with has there been another example in country music lately that you've seen in this? Because this is the most recent example. Like, can you think of another one that's gone on, or any, like, within music, anything that's been controversial?
Of them, honestly, I know there's like the Doja Cat thing that we'll talk about a little bit later, and people accusing her of blackfishing and all of that stuff. But I think probably the most controversial thing was probably like the Lil Durk Morgan Wallen collab, because there are a lot of people who aren't ready to move on from that incident, and obviously Lil Durk. If I say Morgan Wallen, we should move on. I'm an Uncle Tom. I'm a sellout. But Lil Durk, who is a part of a criminal syndicate in the Chicago, how are you going to call him a sellout or Uncle Tom? It doesn't really work.
What's so sick is people have told me I look like Lil Durk.
Let me get on Google.
Do you see it?
Wait. Who is?
Oh no, you do.
Who is?
You do see it.
If I squint.
Wait, hold up. Let me get a picture.
You could be like third cousin. Wow.
I don't think you look like him. I don't think you look
You're
like
lying.
him. I don't think you look like him.
You're lying.
I don't think you look like him. I don't think you look like him. Not at all.
If you squint.
So I'm the girl from The Ring mixed with Lil Durk.
Yeah. But you took after your light-skinned mother?
I don't rap.
You don't rap? Have you ever tried?
No.
Genetically, it could
be
a skill that you could adopt.
Yeah. I might see him at the family reunion.
I am done.
The next time, no, but the great thing for you is the next time someone demands reparations from you, you say, my cousin's Lil Durk.
Right.
Yeah.
As long as you have a dose of chocolate in you. Take it.
You know what they used to say?
Somebody said we need to put a new poll up. I'm not putting that poll up, ladies and gentlemen. Mary does not look like Lil Durk.
Please don't.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
There's a case to be made.
I also want to point out though, like if they forget, do you remember when like Tim McGraw and Nelly did this? Well, I mean, like literally, like I always forget that I'm older than everyone here. I'm like way older than everyone here. But Nelly and Tim McGraw did a song back in like 2000 something. That was a very long time ago. When people make the comments that we were more united as a country back then, they're probably right in some fashion.
Yeah.
I will die on this hill because I believe it so firmly. But maturity as a black person is admitting that you like country music.
No, country music slaps, bro. Like, I'm from Georgia, so like I'm already indoctrinated with it, and I went to school at the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. So obviously grew up a lot around country music, but yeah, it slaps. Like, I like it.
There's a dude named Rashad who does like country covers. Yeah, that dude. Like,
he did Ballin'.
Yep, he's got a couple that are really, really good. Like it's half satire, half real, but then he's got his own real music as well. Like he's good.
Yeah,
he's good.
You know, I thought about your question a little bit more. I think it actually is a little bit alarming that we haven't had more country songs offending people, because maybe that's a sign that country music has lost its way. Yeah. Because it used to, everything that Jason Aldean was talking about in that song, Try That in a Small Town, was about American values, not allowing, one lyric is about not carjacking a grandma at a red light. What's objectionable about that? But now we even have this new generation of country music stars like Kelsey Ballerini and all of these people who are more obsessed with being woke and, you know, injecting rainbow into country music than actually talking about farms and corn and tractors. And I just think that it's weird, because if country music loses its way, there's really not a genre of music that really gives way to that Americano, kind of era.
No, we've talked about mainly in regards to Maren Morris. That was what
Maren Morris, Kelsey Ballerini, Casey Musgraves is also like kind of trying to infect country music with wokeness.
Yeah.
Who's the guy who sings with his wife? I always forget that guy's name.
I'm not sure.
Dan and Shay?
No, I can't remember. But there's like in a lot of ways, I think you're right. Like, right, for a lot of this stuff, it's like music, you used to be able to sector off into genres, and it was okay that you appealed to different groups of people. Yeah. Like, it's actually one of the interesting things when I talk about like loving rap music growing up, the fact like it crossed cultural boundaries because it was marketed to everyone, but not everyone had to like it. You were allowed to figure out what you wanted to like, and then you could, right? Yeah. And then of course Eminem comes onto the scene, and that further cements like white middle America learning to really love rap music, because they had, somebody points out there, like, you know why America was so united back then? Because the best golfer was black and the best rapper was white.
Maybe representation does matter.
Yeah, well, I'm saying, like, but I'm saying that, like, you know, having those, whether it's about the values or just the fact that you like that style of music, it didn't matter that it was different from your life experience. It was allowed to speak to you. Now everything is so homogenized, you don't get a chance to have music that speaks to a unique set of interests, because it's all boiled down to some amorphous Borg of just generic pop.
Yeah.
Like, even a lot of the country music, like Sam Hunt, is basically just pop in a lot of ways. Yeah. Right? Like, it's pop music with a country tinge to it. Yeah. And like, he still would speak about, for the most part, country themes. But it's like, it feels like most music is starting to homogenize down and all become one thing. Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of how it feels when country artists are doing all of these collabs with rap artists and pop artists, because it does dilute the genre to a degree, but like it's good that they can still,
they have to do like a Venn diagram, like what do we have in common.
They can look past the differences between their fan bases. That's the important thing.
Everything's so commercialized, and it's a byproduct of that. So it's like you're trying to speak to the largest audience of people, which really loses like the core of what country music is. It's supposed to be relatable to people who work hard, love America, love their farm, love their girl, love their gun, and love a cold beer. And I think that like there's only a few people who are still true to that. My friend Kylan, she loves Zach Bryan, and because he's like very folksy, very like, he hates being famous, and so he just kind of just talks about his life and growing up in a small town. as cliche as that has become now. But yeah, so I think the commercialization of music has been so bad, but it's also had such a terrible impact on the rap industry, because now you have songs like Pound Town and Suki, who you've been
You know I'm about to go off on Suki.
Suki.
Tell
who
us
is
about
Suki?
this.
Who is Suki? So Sukiyana the Goat, as she goes by, is actually a very close friend of Sexy Red from Pound Town. And
They're all connected.
Birds of a feather.
It's like a mafia.
Yeah.
it's like a swarm of roaches, what I would say. But Sukiyana, so I recently went viral because I just went off on Sukiyana because she was standing in front of Buckingham Palace over in London. And as she's walking by these people who are minding their business on this nice sunny day, she decides to scream out, "I'm trying to get my coochie scratched," and eat her man's behind. And she's just like,
Wait, I didn't see that part.
What?
Oh, you didn't see that?
I just saw the coochie scratch part.
Yeah.
Which then I was like, that she should look into this, like WebMD. Like, I was concerned.
Yeah, it's like when Ben Shapiro said, if you need a bucket and a mop, you might have a medical condition.
Consult your doctor. Consult your doctor.
Not the internet.
Yeah.
So what happened with this feud?
So, well, we had a feud in the Shade Room a while ago, but that's a whole nother story. But recently, so I saw that video, and at first I wasn't even going to comment on it because it was just the most ghetto thing I've ever seen. But then I was like, you know what, let me put in my 2 cents, because here's the thing that nobody wants to admit. The reason that so many stereotypes exist, particularly around Black culture, is because people keep behaving like the worst sides of those stereotypes. And I said on the video, I'm like, there are Black women fighting for their lives to be disassociated from these stereotypes that Black women are trashy and ghetto and vulgar. But then you have Sukiyana the Goat, who wants to be as out loud and ratchet as she possibly could be. She is in front of these people who are minding their business. These people over in London, maybe they haven't seen that many Black women in their lives, but you know which Black women they can for sure say that they remember for the rest of their life? The women who are talking about getting their coochie scratched and eating men's behind. That is disgusting.
It's similar that, on Pearl's show, the pregame, she mostly invites Black women as her guests. Like, her panel is usually majority Black, if not all Black women, which is weird because I think that, like, if you look at the demographics of the UK, Black people make up, like, what, 3% of the total population? So it seems like she's going out of her way to search for these people. And obviously, since they're on her show, they are trashy, like, loose women. And it just seems like a way to go out of, to make your content to humiliate them. And I mean, they are going on there voluntarily. They know what it is, but still, it's very weird.
Loose was such a poetic way.
Yeah.
To put that loose. I'm going to start.
I mean, there are words we can't say on YouTube, so I have to be careful. I have to be tactful.
No, that's so accurate. I've been saying that actually for a while, that it annoys me when I see people go out of their way to go get the most ratchet, degenerate Black person they possibly can and then ask them an intellectual conversation.
It happens on Fresh and Fit, too.
Yeah, like sometimes it's funny, but other times it's just like, we know that you went out of your way to do this. So I do find that cringe, but people like Suki make it so much easier to find the most ratchet people you possibly can.
But do you know what's crazy too is that all these corporations that are so obsessed with being woke, as a part of that, they commit to so-called social responsibility. How is it socially responsible to invest all of this money into the careers of people like Suki, the careers of people like Sexy Red, and have an entire generation of young Black girls growing up having them as their role models? A woman who's rapping about her coochie being pink, and the other one saying that she has some type of condition, right? And like, that is, for all these companies that are so obsessed about elevating Black women, elevating the Black community, how does this elevate the Black community in any way whatsoever? It doesn't. It destroys them from within. And I don't even think it's conspiracy anymore. It seems very intentional.
Yeah, the rap industry has been tearing down the Black community for a very long time at this point. It's actually embarrassing to see just like how the bar is in hell, especially when it comes to female rap, when you have the likes of her, you have Sexy Red, and just the culture that this is creating. Like, there was another video that just went viral recently of these Black women twerking at brunch, entire coochie out as they're sitting here twerking for some kind of competition. They probably won a bottle of Hennessy. It's like, why is this the culture? Why does it seem like there's such a constructed effort to make Black people continuously become more and more ghetto? But then at the same time, we're supposed to have this victim mentality of like, oh no, like, why are these people stereotyping us? Why are you being the stereotype? Don't duck if it doesn't apply.
Yeah,
dog will holler.
It's funny too because I grew up loving Jean Grey and the Fugees, and so much of it is like I guess, but also maybe it's like hey there fellow kids. I just can't relate because it's just I aged out of that genre, like that aspect of rap music, whereas like a lot of the stuff that I grew up. Oh, by the way, the artist I was thinking of it was Kane Brown. That was what I was thinking of earlier. I couldn't think of his name off the top of my head, but like I loved a lot of that. Missy Elliott growing up, right? Like it was just a different time when you're younger, but also like I came from a family where I listened to a lot of, like my brother I can kind of almost exclusively attribute to the fact that I listen to every genre of music because whether I was listening to Live or Smashing Pumpkins, Bone Thugs, Tupac, or even Garth, like he liked Garth Brooks, Diamond Rio, like country artists, right? From that time period that like I listened to every genre of music, but they were all vastly different genres. Like like Smashing Pumpkins has nothing to do with Tupac, has nothing to do with Garth Brooks. And that was the beauty of it, right? You can find what you like and find what you don't like, but now all of it kind of starts to feel a little bit the same. It's a bummer, right? So that's really funny because like you guys like you're having Twitter beefs with with these,
it's so fun.
Yeah, it's great fun.
But they entertain it every time. Like the fact that Ben Shapiro is getting into Twitter beef with Sexy Red or Nicki Minaj or any of these people, and they give him the time of day is the funniest part. Because
their reflex is to be ratchet, and it carries over on Twitter. So it's like obviously they're like, oh, I'll get into a Twitter fight with you, and I like it. You know, I'll get ratchet. It's kind of therapeutic.
Does Nicki Minaj not have a better way to spend her time?
But no, I think Nicki is actually trolling. Nicki is a Republican. Don't be fooled. Nicki Minaj is a whole Republican. She just name dropped MAGA in her most recent song. Like Nicki Minaj has been name dropping the Republican Party.
What was the lyric?
What did she say?
About MAGA?
Child, anyway, so anyway, she still said MAGA regardless of what it stood for and the way she said it, but she was giving a shout out to her Republican doctor who was taking care of her behind and making her behind great again.
Okay.
But still,
important context.
A name drop is a name drop, but I think it's important that we continue to interact with these different people because we've said it before, we'll say it again. It's why I love this show so much. It's because politics is not just impacting culture anymore. Culture is impacting politics. So it's that much more important that we lean into this because CJ and I both get a lot of flack sometimes just because we discuss celebrities or because we'll mention them. And it's strange. It's like you have to.
They talk down to you like the fact that you care or have an interest in it somehow makes you less.
It's like, why are we still talking about Barbie? Why do you care about Barbie?
It's like,
this is the most popular movie out right now, and just because, and we're not represented in those conversations, which is why I think it's so critical that a platform like this exists. Then there's no conservative perspective to be heard. And Ashley St. Clair actually did a really good tweet about this, is that, you know, conservatives complain about like the wokeness of Hollywood and movies and all of these things, but yet we demonize everyone who went into the arts, you know, for years. And so we have no one actually creating movies, no one actually creating a Barbie or whatever else. And I think that's a fair point. And I think that because for a long time we were always like, well, we've got business good. You know, we're running all these corporations, but now we're seeing we were even a little bit too nonchalant about that. We were resting in our laurels, and now all of these corporations are turning on us and absolutely, you know, selling out to ESG and all of these things. But yeah, I feel like we have to, if we're going to fight the culture war, we have to be ingrained in culture. The culture war isn't just, you know, stopping, you know, minors from transitioning or banning critical race theory. It's actually having conversations like this, right? And having a seat at the table, which I feel like we give it up. We refuse to sit sometimes. It's...
Yeah, like to me, I get annoyed when they pretend like this stuff doesn't matter. I'm like, your kids aren't going to care what AOC has to say. Your kids are going to care what Nicki Minaj has to say, what Cardi B has to say. That's what's going to, like, at the very least, you should be informed about it and not act as if it doesn't matter, because it does matter. Like it is going to impact your family. It's why it's like, why do you think that they fought against Sound of Freedom so hard? Because they understand that the power that movies have on people, and they don't. So the if you want to say the left, they understand the impact of these things, which is why they attack it. Right? They get it. A lot of the people, especially on the commentator class on the right, who talk politics and strictly politics, refuse to acknowledge that this space is also important.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
That's true.
And the left understands that because
Yes.
there's a reason that Joe Biden was interviewing the likes of Cardi B, as insulting as that is to the demographic he was trying to appease, which were the Black and Hispanic, but it worked.
Or he had the Ted Lasso staff come to the White House and stuff like. They get it, and Obama got it. He got it. Like one of my earliest memories in politics was like, I was like, why is this dude doing so many late night shows? Doesn't he have a job to do? Because he understood that part and parcel to getting your message out there is sharing it with as many people as possible. And back then, that was late night shows. That's how you got your message out there. So it's like they get it, and the other side doesn't get it. It seems like it feels like it sucks that there's sides at all, but that's the way it is right now, and people need to actually understand that, lest you seed even more of the culture every single time.
Yeah,
So.
I think Republicans are finally starting to really wake up to it. You know, the Republican National Committee, and they're started working with more influencers to really impact culture and reach a younger audience, which I think is so crucial. We can't allow the Democrats to just really run the influencer game, because these people have audiences of lots of young people who will ultimately vote, and if we're not represented, those are votes lost. And so I think that's a huge welcome effort, and the chairwoman's been super passionate about that, and that's really good to see, because for a long time, we weren't working with influencers in the way that the left has, and I think we saw the consequences of that in the midterm elections. You have all of these young people voting for Joe Biden, despite the fact that our country is quite literally in the shitter. Like, if you look at inflation, you look at gas prices, there was no reason that we should not have had a red wave, right? But we didn't, and a lot of these gimmicks that happened they felt like gimmicks to us, because we're very intelligent people, we're smart, and sometimes we're a little too smart, because we forget that the rest of America may not necessarily be where we are right now.
Not
right?
even that they're not smart; they're just not paying as close attention.
Yeah,
right.
They're more apathetic.
They're not paying the same level of attention. All right. Well, I think that's a dire warning to anybody who tries to pretend that pop culture, movies, television, music especially. Like, I think music even more than anything really, because it feels like in a lot of ways, like culturally, movies have become very, very divisive. Music, everybody, the joke was always like, back in the day was like nobody who likes dramas hates a guy who watches comedies, but people who love rock and roll will definitely, I see people in the chat, rap music sucks, right? Like people who, but even that
if
seems
you think
like,
that, it doesn't mean rap music and rap culture isn't influential to society and young people.
Exactly. So just give up on those things and refuse to pay attention at your own risk, I say.
Literally.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.